Halloween used to be one of my favorite holidays. Now I kind of just enjoy it when I have a decent party to go to. In 2018, when I was a senior in college, my friend Tracy's sorority was going to be throwing a big Halloween party at the sorority house. She said I could bring one friend since they didn't want too many outsiders at the party, so I invited my best friend Cody. We're very last-minute people when it comes to Halloween costumes. The party was that night and we didn't have anything. Cody was working late, so he'd have to meet me right before the party, so he asked me to get a costume for him, and he'd just Venmo me the money. I ran to the nearby Spirit Halloween store that opened up like 5 minutes from my house. I was just shotgunning it. I picked a Where's Waldo costume for myself and a Superman costume for Cody, both two of the cheaper costumes they had. Everything was normal until I got to the cashier. I was on the phone with Cody, telling him about the costume I got him and giving him details about the party. I told him which sorority it was that Tracy got us the invite, gave him the address, and then he convinced me to pick him up instead of us just meeting. Stuff like that. All this was said as the cashier was watching me. He was some guy who was decently older than me, but because of his receding hairline I couldn't put a gauge on it as to whether he was in his 30s or low 40s. He wore glasses though and had a skinny-ish build and an awkward presence as he rang up the two costumes. He had a comment, something along the lines of "Sounds like you have a fun party tonight, huh?" I chuckled and said yeah. Then he started asking more details, like if it's open invite, and had a comment about there being lots of girls. I said it's closed invite and that I barely got an invite. He said it's all good. Then he shook my hand and introduced himself as Mike, so I did the same and told him my name was Sean, and I left. It was weird. Fast forward to later that night, I picked up Cody and we arrived to the party around 10 p.m. It sounded loud inside and there were multiple groups of people entering the house before us. At the door a girl asked us who we knew there, and I told her Tracy. She let us in and we were in this huge living room area, music blasting, all the lights dimmed low, Halloween decorations everywhere. And to top it off, people with red cups full of booze crowding the place. We saw Tracy and hung weird. Fast forward to later that night, I picked up Cody and we arrived to the party around 10 p.m. It sounded loud inside and there were multiple groups of people entering the house before us. At the door a girl asked us who we knew there, and I told her Tracy. She let us in and we were in this huge living room area, music blasting, all the lights dimmed low, Halloween decorations everywhere. And to top it off, people with red cups full of booze crowding the place. We saw Tracy and hung really killed my vibe, and we didn't stay much longer after that. In total we were probably at the party for a couple hours at most. We left a little past midnight. I think I didn't drink much. As I started my car, the car parked like 2 cars behind us also turned on, and as I drove in the direction of Cody's house the car started to follow Cody, and I was sure it had to be him. After it made 4 of the same turns, so I pulled to the side of the road, egging him on to pull over, but the car just stopped for a few seconds, then basically floored it past us. We didn't get a good look at who was inside, but I'm still positive it was him. After dropping off Cody down the block from his house, just being cautious, I was staying very aware of my surroundings, and because of that, I noticed a car in the near distance with its lights off, telling me it looked like the same car I got to a main road. Once again pulled over and waited. The car once again waited, then a few seconds late turned on its lights and floored it in the far left lane passing me. I was obviously shook and drove home as fast as I could while I was sure I wasn't being followed. I called that Spirit Halloween location the next day and reported the cashier. They thanked me for the information, but I never went back there, so I wouldn't know if he was fired or anything. Looking back, I wonder if I could have and should have pressed charges. Regardless, I have no idea what he could have possibly wanted from me, but either way I'm happy he didn't find out where I live. Halloween of 2019 was the most terrifying night of my life. I live in Australia because we don't celebrate Halloween as enthusiastically. We don't get as many trick-or-treaters, around 5 or 6 people at most. I am personally a huge fan of Halloween, though to the dismay of my parents who would prefer not to acknowledge it. Obviously that leaves me in charge of putting up decorations and handing out candy. This particular year Halloween fell on a school night and a storm began just after 6 o'clock, which unfortunately meant my efforts preparing the decorations had pretty much gone to waste. Ignoring my better judgment, I still waited for trick-or-treaters in the living room and watched The Conjuring 2 pass the time. Around an hour and a half later, I got a message from my friend M on our group chat asking if anyone would like to mess around and go trick-or-treating. At first I was confused. We hadn't gone trick-or-treating in over 5 years, but I decided it would make the night more enjoyable as nobody was knocking on the door anyway. My other friends, who I'll call S, C, and H, all agreed and asked M where we should meet up, and quickly replied he couldn't make it, which was strange, because he was the one who offered to go trick-or-treating, but he suggested a house which has lots of candy. Me, S, C, and H all arrived at the house within half an hour. A large table with a pumpkin bowl filled with lollipops stood at the front porch, and after checking the windows to make sure we weren't being watched, we emptied the ball between us, only leaving a few to avoid suspicion. As we turned around to leave, we were greeted by 2 men dressed as clowns, approaching us up the driveway. They had huge painted smiles and tilted heads. I could tell we were all creeped out, and one of my friends screamed as they started bolting towards us, one squeaking its rubber nose as they chased. After running for what felt like an eternity, we finally lost them. We decided to go to M's house so we could discuss what just happened in a safe area. However, when M answered the door, he burst into laughter. "What the hell are you guys doing?" he said, confused. "You told us to go trick-or-treating. Can you just let us inside?" That's replied. After sitting down on M's couch, we all soon realized M had lost his phone earlier that day, and a stranger had suggested the idea of going to that house, presumably some sort of trap from the clowns. After another half hour, it cautiously made it home by 9:30, finished my movie, and went outside to collect the candy bowl I set up. I was shocked to see the bowl was completely empty. However, my stomach turned when I saw a clown nose was now laying inside of it. I told my parents everything that happened and showed them the clown nose that had been left at our house. They assured me it was just some Halloween prank. I woke up around 1 a.m. to noises coming from my bedroom window, like rocks hitting the glass. Although I was scared half to death, my curiosity got the better of me. I eventually opened the blinds. My Halloween decorations were destroyed, and littered the ground below. I stared motionless in complete shock until a lollipop was thrown at the window, breaking my trance. I looked up and saw them, the two clowns, perched upon the neighbor's roof looking down at me. I screamed and ran away towards my parents' room. I'll skip the details that followed, but the police were called and the clowns were not found. The officers informed us they would check out the house my friends and I trick-or-treated at, and they left in about half an hour. The following morning we were told the house was abandoned and M's phone was discovered inside. That day at school I learned MSC and H all had creepy experiences during the night as well. I'm not sure if the clowns followed us home or they somehow tracked us through M's phone. All I know is that Halloween is only a few weeks away and I am completely terrified they'll return. It was a stormy Halloween night. It was with my 3 friends, John, Mary, and Keenan. Since we didn't have any real plans and were kind of just hanging around, I decided to grab the Ouija board from my closet. All my friends were down to try it. I wanted to be funny but also set the mood, so I got 3 candles, lit them, and turned off all the lights. The 4 of us sat at the table with our hands on the planchette. We started off by saying, "Is anyone there?" Of course the planchette started to move, and we all started to laugh. It went from